We discuss all the announcements from E3 so far, plus why Andy Rubin's Essential Phone is exclusive to Sprint. And the best place to post your content on the internet happens to be right below Donald Trump's tweets. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1787, recorded Monday, June 12th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Blue Apron, the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. See what's on the menu this week and get 3 free meals with your first purchase and free shipping by going to blueapron.com/TNT.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we break down the tech news for you. We break it down, we put it back together in a nicer, more fashionable way. I am Megan Maroney. Jason Howell is out today.
He is, but I'm here filling in. I'm here for filling in for Jason. And yeah, there's so much going on right now. Let's start with a massive chunk of E3 news. E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, happens in LA every year. Massive video game industry event. It kicked off in Los Angeles this weekend with press events from Electronic Arts, Bethesda, and Microsoft. And one of the most anticipated announcements so far came from the company that Bill Gates built, with the official unveiling of the Xbox One X. This is the console Microsoft teased last year under the name Project Scorpio, which sounds way cooler. Microsoft says the Xbox One X will be the most powerful video game console ever sold, and it won't be cheap. It'll cost $499 once it goes on sale this November. So what's the difference between the Xbox One X and the $200 Xbox One S? Well, the X has a 4-fold increase in graphics capability, a 31% increase in CPU speed, and a 50% increase in onboard RAM. What all of that equates to, for people who don't care about specs and just care about what they see on their TV, well, that's 4K gaming and that's HDR, which the less powerful PlayStation 4 Pro can also do at a price of $400. So, Megan, given all the hype, given all the specs, most powerful ever, do you think this is worth $500? What are you thinking?
I don't. No. I don't think it's worth that. I'm trying to get over just the fact that it's just called the Xbox One X.
Isn't that like it makes me think of the HTC One X, which was a great phone, Android phone, which I really loved in like 2012. But it's just, this is the best you can come up with. Like for the record, this is the 3rd generation of the Xbox. And this is the 3rd version of the 3rd generation Xbox. We already had the Xbox, then the Xbox 360, then the Xbox One, then the Xbox One S, and that it's just I mean, like, it's just okay, you know? One X. I mean, you said the best. That's the best name you can come up with.
Yeah, you said it doesn't even really do that much more than the one that's out there. Like, are they upgrading? Like, is it like trying to turn it into a phone? Like you upgrade every year?
That's kind of. Basically, console cycles used to last about 7 to 10 years, sometimes as short as maybe like 5 years. Now what the thinking going from Microsoft and Sony is, and depending on how you look at it, this may or may not be good for gamers. These games are going to carry on with you from console to console to console. Microsoft, you're going to be able to play original Xbox games on this. You'll play Xbox 360 games. You'll play Xbox One games on here. The difference is that if you want the ultimate bleeding edge horsepower, buy the Xbox One X. It'll be a lot more expensive, but if you have a 4K TV, if you have HDR, if you have all that, and you really, really care about that stuff, then you're going to want to get this. It's also a bit of future-proofing, right? So it's kind of a bet that TVs will get better, 4K, HDR, these technologies are going to advance. And as developers learn how to fully take advantage of this extra horsepower, you'll see tangibly better looking games. But you won't very likely see dramatically better looking games for maybe like a good 6 months to a year into the life cycle of the X. But it is kind of a 0.5, iterative update of an existing platform. But that is the theory. Like, rather than waiting so long for people to buy consoles, this industry is trying to get you to buy more consoles more frequently, and if it's the same game, it doesn't matter what console you have, because you're going to take your library with you as you go along.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's like, there's no, like, if you're interested in VR or something, there's they're just pretending like VR doesn't exist.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because this console will be VR compatible, Microsoft says, although Microsoft says a VR headset isn't coming out for the Xbox One X this year, and they haven't said which VR headsets will be compatible or when. Oh. So it's pretty vague. The PlayStation 4 Pro and the regular PlayStation, which sells for $250, a lot cheaper, both support the PlayStation VR headset. So Sony's got a year-long jump on HDR, on 4K gaming, and on VR from Microsoft. Interestingly enough, in this console generation life cycle, Sony's sold twice as many PlayStation 4 consoles as Microsoft has sold Xbox One variants. So this, whether or not this will be enough to juice things up to help them make up for that lost ground, probably not. But it seems like a bit of a bet on the future of gaming, on the future of home consoles, and more and more upgrades.
And PlayStation, of course, they're having their announcement tonight. Yeah, tonight at 6 p.m. So if you're watching this live, then that's not now, but if you're watching this later tonight or tomorrow, you know more about it than we do. We don't know. Do you think they'll do a price drop? Do you think they'll announce something new? What do you think?
We'll see. The Xbox One S was $250 until a couple days ago when Microsoft cut it to $200. The regular PlayStation 4, not the PlayStation 4 Pro, but the regular PlayStation 4 is $250. So a $50 price cut, I could expect that, but the pressure really isn't on Sony to sell, tens of millions more consoles. That pressure is on Microsoft to do that. Sony's way far in the lead. I think what's really important here is that most developers are making systems or games for both systems, and most developers are likely going to embrace these 4K and HDR goalposts that these consoles, the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, set. Because if you're going to make a blockbuster game, you're going to want it to be available to as many people as possible. And now the hardware can handle higher graphic fidelity, so it should happen. There are already more than 30 third-party titles that should be getting 4K upgrades for the Xbox One X, and there's a similar number of HDR and 4K games available on the Pro. So I'd like to see a price cut, but likely we'll just see a lot more games, a focus on the games that you're going to be able to play with the PlayStation, which makes sense. Their hardware is already out. You know how much it costs. And Microsoft, they did talk a lot about games, but they really didn't justify why their fancy, console, the Ferrari of their consoles costs $100 more than the Ferrari of Sony's consoles. So that's that. Now moving on, let's talk a little bit more about VR. In fact, some blockbuster console titles are coming over to the VR world. For the most part, so far, VR games have really been short. So much so that they kind of feel like demos. Well, Bethesda is working to change that. It's going to have 2 new blockbuster console games that are coming out in VR. One is Fallout 4 VR, which we are seeing here. Fallout 4 is a long, basically like RPG game, the sort of game that you could put about 100 hours into. The next title is Doom VFR, and they haven't said what the F stands for, but Doom is the sort of game that's very violent and sometimes has cuss words in it, so you could probably take a guess. But Doom VFR will be available for the HTC Vive and PlayStation VR, Sony's PlayStation VR headset. And this is a game where you're on an alien planet, and you basically fight off like demon monsters. It's really fun. That's the sort of game that you'd put about 40 hours or so in to beat. These aren't lightweight experiences at all. So this really does kind of pose the question, are VR headsets and our faces ready for such intense and long gameplay? Are we going to be sitting on our couch playing for maybe 10 hours on a Saturday for games like this?
I don't think, I mean, our faces are our brains, like, are ready for that. I mean, already a lot of people still, I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but some people still get sick with VR.
Some do.
And, you know, we were talking about this before, that there's a lot of short games. We played the Star Trek Bridge Crew VR game, which I loved, but I was kind of done with it after about 15, 20 minutes. You guys continued on
I could play
without
for a few hours. I think I have like one of the highest tolerances for VR, and I still can't sit there all day and play any of them. What's
the longest VR session you would consider that you've actually done?
The longest that I've actually done, that might be this game called Super Hot on the Oculus Rift, which has a slightly higher frame rate and slightly higher resolution display than the PlayStation VR headset. And I think I've probably played that for something like 5 or 6 hours straight.
What? Without taking the headset off?
I mean, I think yeah.
Like, don't you have to go to the restroom or anything?
I did not. Okay. I did not. For the record, I also
watched... says diapers, but we should not go down that road.
No, we're not doing that. It's like watching a or a Zack Snyder film in one sitting. It's just like, it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. But yeah, it's
did it.
Yeah, but I did it.
You should be really proud.
And give me that achievement. But no, I mean, it's tough. You know, part of it is you know, VR headsets put weight on your face.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have the motion sickness issues, which I for the most part don't have, you're still having like a big piece of plastic sitting on your face. It's a little bit easier with PlayStation VR because that mount sits on the top of your head, the crown of your head, so that's where the weight is for the most part. So it makes it a little bit more comfortable. And with Doom VFR, that'll be available on, like I said, HTC Vive and PlayStation, whereas Fallout's just on HTC Vive so far. So that means you're having this big honking headset, you know, and of course there are straps and stuff, which helps. But yeah, you know, super goggle face, you know, super VR face, nerd burn when you pull off that headset. Yeah, we'll see. It's a big ask. It's a big ask. It does make some sense if you think that these VR games are going to carry over to the future PlayStation VR headsets when the technology gets better, it gets lighter, it improves motion sickness, it improves resolution, you know, update speed for the screens. And the same with HTC Vive and the same with future versions of Oculus Rift and these sorts of things. But yeah, it's a big question. I'm not sure, you know, if I could do it. I'm kind of hoping, at least on the PlayStation side, and most games are this way, you can play for a few hours in VR, you take off the headset, you play for a few hours sitting on your couch, you know, with your thumbsticks on it, and then you can kind of move back and forth. That's not an option with HTC Vive. It's just VR.
So when you did this 6-hour session in VR, how did you feel afterwards?
Tired. I felt tired. Yeah. I mean, but even when I'm playing like Zelda on my couch for like 6 hours straight, at the end of it, you do kind of feel usually a little tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely like mentally and physically tired. Recently, IGN, the video game news website, news and reviews site, had, I think it was 4 of their editors playing Mario Kart for 24 hours straight, sitting on chairs. I don't know why anyone would want to do that, but they did it, and they live streamed the whole thing on Twitch. It was pretty remarkable. I don't want to do that. And Mario Kart is not an intense game on the same level of something like a Doom or Fallout. That being said, this isn't necessarily just a laughing matter. There are some gamers who have done marathon sessions on the Twitch live streaming network owned by Amazon and others, like YouTube, different things like this. And some of them have had to stop because they were literally feeling sick. I think a few months ago, a competitive gamer, actually died in a marathon session. I wasn't totally clear how that was related, but I think it was like issues of dehydration and exhaustion. And so this is real stuff. It's not a joke. But yeah, it's, you know, it's a question. Hopefully, we'll get the answer to is, are our bodies and our VR headsets ready for these games, because they're coming. You know, whether we're ready or not, they're coming.
I think everything in moderation. That's what that I would say. Like, I think gaming has a lot of great things about it. I've never played Fallout, but it does look like a great game. Like, it looks really interesting.
It's a great game. It's super fun. Now, what hasn't been made clear from what I've seen, and of course we're here in Petaluma, not in Los Angeles, so maybe we missed something, but a lot of VR games will tell you, hey, take a break. You know, it's been 30 minutes, like just go take 10 minutes or whatever, and that's fine. Usually you can listen to those prompts. You don't have to, but usually you can. Bethesda, I don't think, has made it clear whether or not they would issue those sorts of gameplay warnings or break periods. But it is the sort of game where you can kind of pop in and out, because you're venturing around these this post-apocalyptic world. You're getting goods. You're upgrading what you got. You're interacting with other players, and it's the sort of thing you can pop in and out of if you need to.
Well, length of time of play has always been a big concern for me. I know a lot of parents are like, "Oh, that game is too violent. That game is too Grand Theft Auto is going to turn you into a criminal." Like, I've never believed that the actual content of the game was the problem. And I've felt that with really any kind of entertainment, I've always felt like as a parent that the length of time is the problem with almost anything. So you can have the most educational game, and if the kid is playing for so long, and it's not even necessarily that there would be damage to like playing Minecraft for 12 hours straight. Yeah. But what are you not doing in that time? And so that's the only issue that I have with this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair concern. Well, one game I can't wait to play is A Way Out. It's one of the most original games I think we've seen so far at E3. And in this game from Electronic Arts, the goal is to break out of a prison in what looks like the late 50s or early 1960s. It's a co-op only game, so you're going to have to play this one with a friend or with someone you've paired with online. And each mission you carry out and each problem to solve will require 2 players. So say, for example, one of you distracts a guard while the other steals an item, or one of you fights like a rival inmate boss while the other handle his minions or something like that. This game is shown off usually with a split screen orientation. Sometimes it's horizontal, sometimes it's vertical, sometimes one player gets 3/4 of the screen. It looks like an ode to Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite movies of all time, and most people's, I guess, and I can't wait to play this. It looks somewhat cinematic.
Yeah, it definitely does. I love the way that games are really moving into, they're just another genre of entertainment, and this one does look good.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of potential here. You would think that, okay, of all the games that we've had, most of the ideas are out there, but this one really does feel innovative for what video gaming is. We, of course, have seen this storyline dozens of times in films and in books and in other forms of entertainment and pop culture. But for video games, this is a relatively fresh idea. And I think it might be kind of tough, though, for those of us who have, say, a handful of buddies who have consoles, and you decide, oh, are you going to play with her? Are you going to play with him? Like, who's that one-on-one person you're going to go through this whole experience with? That might be a little tough, but I think this game looks really, really cool and really promising.
Okay, I have a question, a philosophical gaming question for you. What's more important to you, the storytelling or the gameplay?
Ooh, gosh, that's tough. I mean, I think to a certain extent, I wish more games had both. I think for the most part, historically, a lot of video games focus on gameplay more than story. I think in the last few years, maybe last decade or so, that's really started to change. And I think folks have taken video games more seriously as an art form. Really, as serious as you would, say, a film or a book or something like that. So now you're starting to see really, and you have been for a while, starting to see really great stories in games. And I think a lot of that creativity has come from the indie side of things rather than the big blockbuster studios. But you see that on the blockbuster side too. Like A Way Out's coming from Electronic Arts, one of the biggest game makers you can get there. The Grand Theft Auto series has always been known for its narrative. And, now there are some games that you play because of the gameplay, right? A lot of us gamers will play, say, like a Call of Duty or something like that because you know what the gameplay is. You want that specific gameplay. The story is almost secondary, where there might be other games where the story is the focus. And some are able to bring those together. Most notably, or well, one of many, there's a game called The Last of Us not that long ago, which was known for a very powerful, very emotional story, basically about a kind of father-daughter relationship, and the gameplay was just as good as almost anything else that you'd get out there. Some of the first Tomb Raider games were pretty much just gameplay. Some of the new ones have really great stories. So those things are changing a little bit. But it kind of depends on the game. You know, interestingly enough, one of the things that we're seeing at E3 is that games like FIFA, like a soccer game, or Madden, Electronic Arts NFL game, those games, you just play them. You just pick them up, you play as your favorite team. But now they're adding characters and story elements into those games, as well as Forza 7, which is a race car driving game. I'm a big fan of that series. They're adding characters into that and stories too. Will that work for those types of games? You know, it's a gamble, but that is a trend for the industry. It's something to take a look for.
Yeah, because I mean, sports is itself its own story, right? That's why people, it's like a novel or a TV show. Like, who's going to win? Like, what's going to happen?
Sports is a major soap opera. I mean, you'll probably get a lot of, you know, I'm a big sports fan. You'll probably get a lot of sports fans that will slam anyone who wants to watch a soap opera, you know, with their day. But the drama and, like, you know, who has beef with who, and this player left that team and now they're burned and they used to be best friends, you know, and I mean, there's a lot of drama and relationship storylines and soap opera-esque weight in sports. And I think a lot of people don't see those parallels, but you're totally right. You're totally right. Well, one game that we hope has a lot more story and really good stories is Star Wars Battlefront 2. That's coming later this year, and it looks like it just might make up for the old Star Wars Battlefront game, which felt pretty incomplete. The old one offered online multiplayer maps and not much else. But this new one looks like, well, a full game. It's going to have a campaign, which means you'll be able to play through stories and missions that you can play on your own, something that was sorely missing before. And each part of the Star Wars film series, the old prequels, the old trilogy, and the new films will all be represented. EA is also promising a steady stream of content coming for the game that should keep the title exciting long after its release. That means downloadable content. That means microtransactions. And there really wasn't enough DLC with the previous title. The gameplay looks really, really great and pretty compelling. And, you know, as a Star Wars nerd, I'm pretty excited about this. I liked the old one. I'm hoping I will love this one.
Okay, so you said you could play in any universe. Could I play with Yoda and Jar Jar Binks in the Rogue One universe?
No, you cannot. You can't. From my and I could be wrong, but from my understanding of what we've seen so far and what we've gotten so far from EA, each character is restricted to its timeline, so to speak. So you could play as Yoda and Jar Jar because they did show up together in the prequels, but Rogue One, well, you know what? Actually, the Rogue One universe took place during the original trilogy, so that's the same universe. So that actually likely could be possible. What you can't do is you can't get, you know, say BB-8 and Yoda together playing in, you know, the prequel universe or something like that. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. I mean, sorry, universe is not the right word.
No, because it's all one universe. There's only one
universe. It's just the different eras. We'll say eras. Let's say eras. Yep.
Yeah, because Yoda was not in the Rogue One time.
He was still alive then. Yeah, because Rogue One takes place between episode 3 of the prequels and episode 4, which is A New Hope, the first of the original trilogy.
Right. Yes,
yeah.
got it.
So yeah, Yoda was still kicking around back then.
Good. To know.
Honestly,
okay. Well,
I think, you know, I like Yoda should be playable in any game. Like, he's one of my favorite characters, and I'm kind of bummed that I'm hoping that there will be some new Yoda type people. We've never seen other Yoda, whatever his creed, his race is.
Okay, so I'm a Star Wars fan too, and I always saw the Star Wars games as sort of like those novelizations of Star Wars. You would never really want that.
Pay attention to that.
Like,
You're right. For the most part, Star Wars games have stunk in the past. There are some notable exceptions. There was this game, and I hope to get this wrong, because if not, the chat room will be mad. But I believe the old game was called The Knights of the Old Republic. It was an RPG, and it's widely considered to be one of the best RPGs of all time. Burke mentioned the game X-Wing. There have been a few that were great Star Wars games, but for the most part, there have been situations where, you know, so-and-so company pays a lot of money for the license, and then they just shovel something out there quick, and they know people are going to buy it because it's Star Wars, but actually it kind of stinks. And let's be real, George Lucas did a lot of that kind of stuff back in the day. He kind of pimped out Star Wars about as much as he could. What it seems like is happening now under the Disney ownership is that Electronic Arts owns all of the rights to all the Star Wars video games, and they know how to build blockbuster franchises that people show up for year and year and year and year out, just like Madden, just like FIFA, just like what they do with the Battlefield games. So Star Wars Battlefront should be this sort of thing that we should be able to rely on, you know, every year or every couple years for good, consistent gameplay. If they can pull that off, then they could have something special. Interestingly enough, because that was the promise of the previous game and it didn't live up to the hype, I would say that the hype for this game isn't as high as it should be, and it isn't where it should be because they haven't lived up to that promise so far.
Got it.
Well, Minecraft is a global hit. It's on pretty much every gadget you can find, and now they're going totally cross-platform. So if, say, I'm playing on an iPad and Megan's playing on a PC, and then one of our buddies is playing on an Xbox, we can all play this game together. At least that's the promise. This is almost unheard of in gaming. At most, you're usually able to play a game cross-platform between, say, an Xbox and a Windows PC, since both of those run some version of Windows. But Mojang, the studio that makes Minecraft, is blowing up this entire paradigm. It's a very, very exciting change, a very exciting idea. And while I can't say that I'm a huge Minecraft fan or player, I'm hoping this bleeds over into other games.
I'm not sure how they're going to do this because Pocket Edition of Minecraft is very different than the regular Minecraft on the PC. So, but they said the update's going to come this summer. So, and anyone like playing on an iPad or an iPhone or other mobile will get the update. So it'll be interesting because what I understood was that you couldn't play the real version on an iPad because an iPad just wasn't strong enough to run it all. But I am my children will be excited about this. Right now, it has not been as easy to join other realms or other join friends that aren't. They'll play with all their friends at our house, all on their iPads. But sometimes they want to play. One of them wants to play on the PC.
Big screen.
Yeah. Well, and then that was the other thing we had heard that the Minecraft was coming to the Apple TV, and then it happened, and I didn't even know it was out on at least June 1st.
Yep.
You have to pay another $20 for it, but. Yeah, I think that we have another story later on in the show about Minecraft. I am a fan. I am not a player, but I am a fan.
Yeah, it seems to be something that kids have genuinely caught on to, and like Legos, it's something that kind of taps into, what we like to do as kids. We like to build, we like to be creative, we like to imagine, you like to kind of fantasize, and here is a way to do that with friends in what is a virtual world. They also announced, Minecraft also announced that they'll get a 4K update for the Xbox One X eventually this year too. And that's what we're seeing here is like the fancy lighting and HDR differences in, between dark and light and some advanced textures. It doesn't sound like that's going to go cross-platform, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's like if there's one game that is going to be playable, and it sounds crazy and I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around it, but across mobile, across VR, across the Nintendo Switch, across, the most powerful Xbox or PlayStation, and like the craziest PC you could build. That's like, how does that work? But that is the promise. And, I can't wait to test it out just to see if it could work because, and this is the sort of thing that makes sense for a developer, right? You're going to want as many people playing your game as possible. You're going to want people to stay involved with it. But Mojang, the company that makes Minecraft, is owned by Microsoft, and their interest would be to keep you buying Xboxes and all your friends buying Xboxes. Sony's interest is to keep you buying PlayStations and just PlayStations, right? There are a few companies on this level that have those sorts of considerations, and so it's interesting to see that this is coming from a Microsoft-owned company. Mm-hmm. I mean, they must be pretty independent to do something like that. Yeah,
I mean, I mean, Microsoft is a huge company. Like, I think that they're more concerned with their cloud business necessarily than they are with whether or not you're buying an Xbox or not. But yeah, but it'll be fascinating because a game like Fallout. Mm-hmm. You can the Fallout version on the iPad is like moving a tiny little guy around. It's like
almost not the same.
Yeah.
Game.
So, but Minecraft is by nature pixelated and a little bit it's not supposed to look lifelike, and it never will. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, a quick reminder that you can comment on anything we discuss by emailing tnt@twit.tv. And, of course, subscribe to Tech News Today by going to our show page at twit.tv/TNT. Up next, we're going to have a lot more tech news that is outside of the E3 realm. But first, let's take a minute to thank Blue Apron, the sponsor of this episode. Not all ingredients are created equal. Fresh, high-quality ingredients make a real difference. So it's important to know where your food comes from. Blue Apron sets the highest quality standards for their community of over 150 local farms, fisheries, and ranchers across the United States. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals in 40 minutes or less. And by shipping the exact amount of each ingredient required for a recipe, Blue Apron is reducing food waste. Their freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. They deliver to 99% of the continental U.S. There's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. You can customize your recipes every week based on your dietary preferences, and you can choose from a variety of new recipes each week or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Upcoming meals include warm smoked trout and asparagus salad with fingerling potatoes and garlic croutons, spiced zucchini enchiladas with creamy lime and tomato rice tostadas with summer squash, poblano peppers, and cilantro rice, peach honey glazed chicken with mashed sweet potatoes, collard greens, and Thai basil. There's a lot of good stuff on there. I was just playing around with my options this week, and I'm trying out the soy marinated chicken thighs. I'm really looking forward to those. You can check out this week's menu and get 3 free meals with your first purchase and free shipping by going to blueapron.com/TNT. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. Don't wait. Go to blueapron.com/TNT. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Uber is getting some new leadership. Reuters reports that sources say CEO Travis Kalanick will take a leave of absence. Meanwhile, Uber's senior vice president, Emil Michael, has sent an official email to employees saying he is leaving the company. Yesterday, Uber's board met to discuss the recommendations from the official report by former Attorney General Eric Holder, and a company spokesperson said they will accept all of these recommendations. We haven't heard exactly what they are, but some sources say requesting that Michael leave was one of them. Nestle executive vice president and Alibaba board member Wan Ling Martello will join the board. So this is just sources saying that Kalanick will leave. He's likely to leave. He hasn't announced this or anything as of this.
And him leaving the company isn't the same as Emil Michael actually resigning, right?
Right. So
he's taking a leave of absence, right? So we don't really know when he's going to come back, if he'll come back, kind of what's going on.
And Bloomberg had a piece today saying Michael was leaving. He blames it on a weak board, not his behavior.
Wow.
So it just on the way out, I'm going to say one more thing. So Michael, of course, was gotten in trouble way back in 2014 because he had suggested that it would be a good idea for Uber to hire opposition researchers to look into the private lives of journalists who were reporting on Uber. So not my favorite person. And Uber will replace Michael with business development head David Richter. And so some other recommendations that Holder supposedly suggested were greater spending controls, more human resources, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, there clearly is, and I think Uber has said this itself and would say this, there are culture problems at that company. And Michael and, the CEO, Travis Kalanick, and a lot of the folks who have been let go, all did some pretty crazy kind of egregious things. Last week we heard about Travis, the CEO, sending an email back when the company was a couple hundred people, I think maybe a couple years ago, basically outlining how people should or shouldn't, get verbal consent before having sex with each other at a company retreat, and how he can't with anyone because he's the CEO, and how they'll have to pay a $200 fine for puking in public at this place they're at. It sounded more like the kind of warning you would get for like a big, frat camping trip or something like that. And he and Michael were really good friends from all the reports that we've seen. There was also this executive who was let go last week, who had the medical report of a rape victim, someone who was raped by a driver in India, an Uber driver, who showed the medical reports around for about a year before his ouster, and he shared them with the CEO and with Michael, who is now resigning. So, just regardless of the weak board comments or not, there are cultural issues there, and these three positions of top leadership for the business, for the expansion of the business, they are now gone. At least with the CEO, it's temporary, and it's worth noting that while there's all of this drama and rightful questions and anger over the culture issues at Uber that seem to exist, his mom, the CEO, Travis Kalanick's mom, did pass away from a boating accident a couple weeks ago. So I'm sure he's going through a lot. So there are a lot of reasons for him to be taking a leave of absence right now. But the timing does seem right for such a move, and for also such a kind of cleaning house of the leadership and kind of resetting things. What I'd like to see is some clear transparency on what these actual what the tangible results of these moves will be, right? Because changing a culture for a company that big isn't an easy task.
Well, you think about all these companies, the sharing economy companies that got big pretty fast, and you never know. I mean, the only reason that we're pointing out Uber is because they did discover this sort of game-changing technology. They really changed the industry. Like, there are so many companies like this that have someone like Travis Kalanick at their head. And then sometimes that's why you hear about them being removed and, someone else coming in. And I do think that it's a good lesson in terms of like, here's what you have to do. You have to treat people fairly. You have to recognize that, not everyone wants to read an email about who you can and can have sex with from your boss. So, yeah, I think, but at the same time, do you think it really matters for Uber? Like, do you think the bottom line is really changed for them? Do you think people are, if it's going to be a cheaper ride, if it's going to be easier, if Uber is like Kleenex, just a household name, do you think that it's really going to affect the company as a whole?
I would like to think that Uber, well, personally, I don't think Uber has much of a brand. I don't think Uber has much of a consciousness, in a major level outside of, well, it's this app where you can get a cheap ride, right? It's not an old enough company where we have long-standing relationships of some kind, cultural relationships with a company, the way that you might with, say, like a McDonald's or a Nike or a Ford, right? These companies have been around for a long time. You kind of know what they represent. And I think that it does matter, and it does mean something that for a lot of people, this company that hasn't been around very long and they might not know that well, or maybe they're hearing about it for the first time, they're hearing about it in a negative context. And the fact that this is being drawn out, there's been stories on this day after day after day for months now, and none of this news has been really very good. Now they're starting to turn some of those things around. It sounds like by having some accountability and saying, we're going to go and get Eric Holder, we're going to get this board member, we're going to hire this Apple Music executive to come over and work on marketing and these sorts of things. But I think really what this is, and unfortunately I don't see a ton of dialogue around it the way that I'd like, is this is a bigger problem and question for Silicon Valley and for tech as an industry, and really kind of American corporate culture. A lot of companies get away with these sorts of things. We saw similar behavior from Fox News leadership not that long ago. We've seen, these aren't Uber specific issues, right? And so, where this all goes and whether or not that broader dialogue happens, I don't know. I'd like to see other tech companies come out and say, hey, no one's pointing the finger at us, but we have a commitment, and maybe a group of them can get together to do some sort of internal reports or some sort of things like that. But no one else is standing up or saying anything. They're just letting it be Uber's problem right now. If this was specific to Uber, that it would be easier to say. But I think that it does matter that their narrative at this point is a mess. And if these sorts of things didn't matter, then companies like Apple and like Google and like Nike and like whoever else wouldn't come out regularly and say, hey, look at how much we're spending on, clean energy. Look at how much we're donating to this school. Look at all of these things. PR matters. Having a positive face for a company matters. And right now, the face of Uber looks pretty beat up.
True. Former Android head Andy Rubin's new Essential phone will have one exclusive carrier, Sprint. In an interview with USA Today, Essential President Niccolo De Masi called Sprint, quote, the network of the future. You can also buy the Essential phone unlocked, and it will probably work just fine on any network. The exclusivity many are reporting, has less to do with Sprint's current network capabilities than it does with Rubin's friendship with the SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son. SoftBank owns 83% of Sprint. So this is interesting. I am a Sprint user. I received an email or got a YouTube comment recently saying I should stop saying that I'm a Sprint user because it makes me look like I don't understand technology. I think it just makes me look loyal to a company that I've used, or too lazy to switch. I don't know. I have better things to do.
Well, I mean, all these companies are great at some things and atrociously bad at other things. Like none of them is a wholly great 100%. Like, I love this company and I can defend it to everyone, and you should love it too. I mean, like, we're talking about AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, and T-Mobile. Like, those are the four leading characters in the U.S. There's U.S. Cellular, there are some others, but all of them at some point or another have done like terrible stuff to consumers and done some great things. So brush those haters off, Megan.
Okay, I will. I'll shake it off. I'll shake it off like T-Swizzle says. So there's a lot of haters out there. A lot of people on Twitter have said that they are not, that this causes a lot of doubt in the Essential phone, that this would be their key carrier. So
I mean, like, the Essential phone is going to be sold unlocked. You can use it on any network you want. The only carrier you'll be able to go into a store and buy it from is Sprint. That's the difference. That's a business deal. That and I'm glad you pointed this out. That's largely a product of Andy Rubin being friends, with the SoftBank CEO, which owns the majority of Sprint. That's why it's there. If every single one of these companies was knocking down an Essential's door and saying, "Hey, let's do some sort of deal where we can get your phone on our store shelves," I'm sure it would be a different story. But here, no disrespect to Andy Rubin, who, basically built the old Sidekick phone, which a lot of us know and love, is the father of Android as an operating system, instrumental in its success. But Andy Rubin isn't a household name on the same level as Samsung and Apple and Google. And Essential phone doesn't mean anything to people yet. So this is a marketing move. It's a smart one. Start small. When Google first had its original Nexus phones, they were specific to one carrier or the other. When Apple first launched the iPhone, it was only available on AT&T too. Scarcity sometimes can promote hype and perceived value, whether that's legitimate or not. So this is a business decision. It's a marketing move. It doesn't make the phone bad. Doesn't make the phone any better than before. Those are also haters too, in my opinion.
So Mike in the chat room said, never heard of the Essential phone. Well, it hasn't come out yet. It is coming out at the later this summer, I believe it's coming out.
Well, it's a company no one had heard about until like a week ago anyways.
Right. Well, no one had heard of Andy Rubin's Android before it came out either.
Exactly.
Researchers say that games like Minecraft can help Syrian refugees improve language skills and mental health. According to Forbes, the online gaming study called Project Hope used not only Minecraft, but also coding education programs from Code.org, a game called Alien Game, and a Turkish language game designed with the Sorigo engine. The study included 147 Syrian children between the ages of 9 and 14 in Urfa, Turkey. So I really liked reading this story, and it confirmed one thing that I've believed about Minecraft. It said it could help children imagine better futures for themselves. And, you know, I do understand that a lot of adults play Minecraft for all kinds of reasons, but I have noticed that many of the reasons I think that young boys, I know young boys and young girls play it, but I feel like it does give you a sense of control that you don't have in your life. And so I think that is something that I will say young girls and boys, and obviously Syrian refugees, feel like that, you know, they can imagine a future, they can have control over something, build something, like you said before. You know, if you're using Lego to build something, you're really creating something on your own. When you're young, you know, 11, 12, 13, I know younger people play Minecraft. It's hard, you know, as someone's always telling you what you have to do and be places, and, you know, you have no control. So I thought this was a really fascinating study. It was conducted by NYU and Turkey's Basihir University. I meant to look up how to pronounce that. Basihir University. And half of the refugee children that they worked with, they don't know the language, so they can't be, you know, they can't go to school, which, you know, sets them back. And they also suffer from PTSD, and this was helpful to them.
Yeah, you know, when we play, we imagine, you know, and we problem solve, and it's part of the learning process. It's just part of kind of figuring out, you know, what's important to you, where your mind goes, how these things work. You know, if you're lucky enough to be around other kids and you get into conflicts, that's problem solving. That's developing social skills. These sorts of things are foundational to being a human being and to being a person. And so, you know, whether it's a video game that you're building your imaginary world in, or it's two little, you know, dolls or action figures or whatever, or a handful of Legos, there's an underlying, you know, thing that we do here that's part of our development, right? And it is kind of a shame that, to a certain extent, as the older we get, as the more adult we get, as the more grown up we get, and saddled with responsibilities we get, we lose that ability to play and to imagine and to fantasize a little bit. And so this is great. I mean, I love seeing that. The fact that it was, as you mentioned, that a university in Turkey and NYU in the U.S., you know, working together on a study. Love seeing, you know, bridges built in that way. But also the fact that it's Minecraft, this is kind of a shared cultural experience around the planet. Like, kids all over the world are playing this and taking part in this. And, you know, hopefully, you know, there's a better day for Syria in the future, or these Syrian refugees, if they, you know, whatever country they might go to. Here's something, even if they don't know the language, that they can connect with other kids on. This is, you know, fantastic. Also, of course, you know, code.org does a lot of great stuff. So, you know, teaching coding skills with a game that's based in the Turkish language, that's super interesting too. But yeah, just like a really inspiring nugget of news there.
And here's another inspiring nugget of news. Amateur drone racers, this is for you. Drone Racing League, or DRL, has just raised $20 million in new Series B funding, led in part by Liberty Media Corporation, owners of the Formula One racing brand. The DRL is the leader in this new space, relatively new, having raised over $32 million. They have partnerships with Amazon, Swatch, and even the U.S. Air Force. So drone racing, season starts June 20th. I know you like cars and car racing. Do you watch drone racing?
I love car racing. I have never watched drone racing. So I've seen some drone racing stuff online, but I've never seen an official full DRL competition. I've just seen like little clips and things like this. You know, the presentation here feels a little bit like it's mixed with like reality television and motorsports, which is a little goofy and a little hokey to me. You know, but I'm not sure what exactly the demographic is that they're going for. But when I see the actual racing, when I see like that drone's eye view, and it's, you know, throwing itself through those little, you know, slalom of obstacles to get through, that's cool. This looks like something I would give a shot to watching. But it looks like it's early days for this potential, you know, sport, if you want to call it that. And they don't really know what they want it to be yet. Right?
Whether it's, do you want to watch the drones, or do you want to watch the drone's eye view?
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, sometimes they're, you know, flying through, you know, empty cars. Sometimes they're flying through a stadium. it's still looking for its place. It's like still looking for its rules. I think there's something there. I think there's something there. I mean, we like to race, whether it's two kids on a playground running against each other to see who's fastest, whether it's Formula Drift, a motorsport that I'm really into, where, you know, people are sliding, you know, the tail end of cars around and burning through tires, whether it's NASCAR, Formula One, or boat racing, or, you know, anything.
Foot racing. I would like to race you now that I know that we're both runners. And
I bet you'd be faster, actually. I'm not the fastest guy.
Well, we'll have to. We need to have some sort of technology that's
we can
testing
go in the
our.
parking lot. You want to go
Right now?
Want to take it outside, Megan? You want to take it outside? No, but I think there's something. I think there's something here. So I would definitely give it a shot. It needs to be more accessible. Right now, it's kind of niche. But you know, with the folks who are behind Formula One racing, they have a deal with NBC Sports. So when I'm watching F1 on like a Saturday morning or something, that's accessible, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see. I mean, Amazon, Swatch, the Air Force, those are good sponsors to have.
So I'm not really into any spectator sports. So is 70 million fans, is that still niche?
I mean, yeah, when you compare it to like the likes of, you know, the NFL, the NBA, they might have 70 million fans, but where are they consuming that content? How much money are they spending? You know, what's the reach? That's huge for anything that's an upstart. But compared to the global consciousness and branding opportunities, and because when it comes down to it, these are businesses, and it's about the ads they can sell, the TV deals they get, the sponsors they get. So they're off to a great start.
Well, we got some feedback. Last week, Jason and I managed to make up a very bad joke about ice machines. I'm not going to repeat it. You got to see the episode on Friday if you really want to know it, and it's good. Matt Howell wrote in and was nice enough to give us 6 additional bad jokes for our collection. Here are 2 of my favorites. Ready? What party game do classical composers love to play? Hide and seek.
Wow.
Like Joseph Haydn. Get it? And for you Unix fans out there, what OS file format do farmers use? Squash FS.
Oh man, those are brutal.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I don't even understand the second one because I use Sprint. So
you couldn't possibly understand it. Really? Anyone who uses Sprint. All right. Well, TNT's fan of the day is Aunt Pruitt, who says, here, writing sequel, watching the neighbor rabbits, birds, deer, and Kylo Finn. This is the tweet we got here.
Kylo Finn is his dog.
Okay.
I believe he is a boxer.
Nice.
I know the names and breeds of all of our fans' dogs.
That's fascinating. It seems like you and Ant have traded some tweets before.
We have, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you can show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it.
Yeah, Ant also has been starting to do some reviews, some product reviews. I would check those out.
Nice.
Ant Pruitt. All right, finally, BuzzFeed says if you're looking for the most popular place to post your content on the internet, you will find it right under Donald Trump's latest tweet. Reporter Charlie Warzel says replying to POTUS's tweets is like an SEO strategy now. Warzel dug into the world of those who responded to Trump's tweets to find out why they do it and how they managed to get that prime real estate as the first commenter. Many say they do it to fight back or to fight for, depending on what side of the argument they are on. And some say that the president's tweets are so predictable that they are able to craft responses in advance and then have them at the ready as soon as Twitter notifies them of one of Donald Trump's tweets. It is totally worth reading the entire piece on BuzzFeed if you're into this sort of thing. You can game the algorithm, and that means you don't even need to be the first one to tweet. You just have to know how to, whatever the algorithm is, to be the first one. And those replies to tweets will bring like 300,000 impressions.
Wow. This doesn't seem like a game I want to play. I mean, you're getting those impressions, but for what end? You know?
Right. Do you ever look at them? Like I do.
I honestly try not to. I see so many Trump tweets reported in the news media that I do as much as possible to stay away from his actual Twitter account.
That's
I'm gonna get the most important parts. And what I care most about is, what is Congress doing? What are the policy decisions? Like, what's actually happening? And those things don't always necessarily line up with what he's tweeting. I understand, what I like is Charlie at BuzzFeed. He just tells the most interesting, fascinating stories. And this is such a crazy growth hack. But of course, I think with any growth hack, the question is, how are you turning this into followers? How are you turning this into, what is your influence? What is your message? Where is it all going, right? Because if you got 300,000 impressions, but your tweet is like, nuh-uh, or whatever, then like, what? So it's a fascinating story. It's like, as you mentioned, it's worth reading the whole piece, because some of that is mentioned in there and some is not. But yeah, good for them, but not. Don't expect to see me replying to any politician on that level. Well, when I said I do look at Trump's tweets, but like I also look at the train wreck that happens right below that, what he's talking about, like the back and forth. And I want to point out that earlier when you were talking about how you spent 6 hours in VR, I didn't mean to judge you. I have more important things to do. Right. Like that. And I just wanted to point out that is how I'm spending my time, just watching the train wreck right below Trump's tweets and just that back and forth. And so really no judgment on the VR. What are we doing with our lives, Megan? You're using Sprint. I'm goggle face. Oh, what's going on? I know. I do feel like I should probably get myself a pair of VR goggles because I think playing those games is probably better for me than reading the responses. Just use your Trump's Sprint phone to get a VR headset so you can read Trump tweets in VR and respond to them using a voice-controlled speaker or something. I don't know. It's not the tweets themselves. I mean, it's the magic that happens right below. Yeah. I'm just saying. Got some Burke chat happening here. Yeah, Burke says that's my sports ball. I'm not watching. That is my. I said I wasn't a fan of spectator sports, but apparently I am. The sport that happens on Twitter underneath Donald Trump's tweets. Awesome. Well, TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. And you can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv or leaving us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. And you can also hit us up on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. You can also share your thoughts on the stories we discuss in the TNT subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. I think I'll spend some more time there than I will on Twitter too, because that's probably most definitely a healthier place there. Go there. Also, find all the ways to subscribe to our show. You can get it on Apple Podcasts. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it really anywhere you get your podcasts. twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me, you know where I am. I'm at Megan Maroney. And I'm at Nate OG. Thanks to our technical director, Brian. Thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio. And thank you, Kevin, for editing the show. And thanks to you, all of you, for taking the time to talk tech with us today. We will see you tomorrow.